Eleanor, that was a good overview. You might need to do that again.
I would love to. Thank you. Welcome. That was practice. We're iterating. This is the first of a series of webinars outlining the objectives and scope of various tracks within Agile disciplines. IC Agile maps learning objectives and provides a way for practitioners in the field to work through a process of what types of knowledge might be important within those disciplines. So this track has just been released in beta form, Enterprise Agile Coaching, and we're very fortunate to have all 4 of the track designers who spent quite a bit of time, I'll let them tell you the details of the process, putting this document together. So we've invited folks interested in self-learning, in working towards developing courses that might be suitable for accreditation, internal corporate development, and developing learning credits for webinars and conferences. All of those interests are represented in this group today, and the material that you'll hear is all designed to be an invitation to become intimately familiar with this track, to interact with it, and to provide feedback. So this is going to be a conversational style webinar, and we hope it'll be the beginning of a much larger and deeper conversation as new people get involved. So thank you for all being here, and I'm going to turn it over to our track designers.
Great.
Thanks. Why don't you go ahead and go to the next slide. We're going to, this is Pete, and we're going to be providing just probably 20 minutes, maybe a little bit more, just with regard to overview and context, but we want to leave this as open and informal as possible. We consider this more of a coffee talk than a webinar, so feel free to interrupt, whether through chat or through voice. I think that's appropriate. One of the context elements we wanted to provide is that this track is an extension of the Agile Facilitation and Coaching track. And so what we're expecting is anybody coming into this track from a learning perspective will have already achieved or participated and gone through the certification process of the Agile Facilitation and Coaching track. And Lisa, Michael, and Marcia have all been involved in developing that initial track. I was part of the review team for that. But so we're quite familiar with that, and this is an extension to that. Any thoughts from you that you guys would like to share on that?
No, I think that was a great summary.
Okay, next slide, Eleanor.
There you go.
So just wanted to introduce ourselves. Looks like the guys got their names chopped off there at the bottom, but I'll start with myself since I'm already speaking. Pete Behrens. I've been, nope, go back. I've been probably coaching the enterprise space for about 9 years. Secondarily, with the Scrum Alliance, was involved in developing the Certified Scrum Coaching Program, which is probably the first enterprise-level coaching certificate out there. I don't see this as a conflict of interest. In fact, I see this as a complementary interest between the Certified Scrum Coaching Program and IC Agile. I think there's a lot to benefit in both worlds, and I don't see them as competing. I think both are essentially guiding good experienced team and other organizational team coaches and organizational change agents to be more effective. And so I've been proud to be part of this team. Lastly, my coaching focuses primarily with leadership and organizational type agility, focused specifically around culture. So I'll let the others, Marcia would like to go next.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Marcia Acker, and my Agile journey started back in, I think it was around 99, getting introduced to extreme programming. And my passion is really around culture change and team development. and lots of years of facilitation experience, and more recently professional coaching experience, and had the pleasure of working with Lisa and Michael as we developed the facilitation and coaching track, and then the opportunity to develop a class around that particular track, and now really carrying that forward to enterprise level, which gets at a place that I think is really valuable to this industry. I see a lot of culture change happening. I think Agile introduces culture change just by the very nature of what it's focused on, and I think we're really tapping into putting some definition around a lens of that change that I don't know has really been done on a broad spectrum before. So super excited, and I feel like blessed to be working with this team of people that I've had the opportunity to work with. So a little bit about me.
Right back at you, Marcia. So I'll go next. I'm Lisa Atkins, and I'm probably most well known for my passion around the discipline and the role of Agile coaching. I really believe that people who are doing the work of Agile coaching are our best hope for Agile being done well and fully, and it getting, all of us getting the promise that we know is possible and that we've maybe seen glimpses of but haven't had it fully manifest the way we really want it to. And so I've been involved, as Marcia said from the beginning, with the facilitation and coaching track, which takes someone from being, the skills they need to be a scrum master or iteration manager or a team facilitator of one team, up to being someone who can function at a multi-team program level and kind of really help an organization develop capability. So those are two really essential steps that build skills and knowledge needed to then, catapult oneself into the enterprise coaching realm. And I say catapult because there's a huge leap between being a multi-team kind of program level, even multi-program level Agile coach, and really being able to be an enterprise coach, really being able to help the enterprise move itself forward and use Agile as a competitive advantage, not just a way of getting things done faster or a way of developing things better. And so I'm really passionate about this role of Agile coach. I think it was my personal journey, but also I just see that Agile coaches are just in the best position to be the transformation agents that we need in organizations. And Agile is a really convenient and ready way of doing that. So I've been involved now with this track for, Marcia, do you know, and Michael, we're coming up on our 3-year anniversary next month or something like that. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I think it has been about 3 years.
Yeah, and we've been working on this track, and we're going to have a timeline for you in a moment. We've been working on this track of enterprise Agile coaching for over a year now.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of heart and sweat in the development of it. And it's absolutely core to what I think we need to be doing in Agile right now, is bolstering these roles, and the place that I play is in bolstering this role.
Hi, I'm Michael Spade, and I've been working in the enterprise Agile space for about 13 years now, turns out, since 2001. And I've, as we worked on the coaching track, I thought that was really important work to do, and I was really glad to lay the foundation. But I was really, really excited to get to the enterprise track, because that's where my passion lies. And it turned out to be about 3 to 4 times harder than I think any of us thought.
Yes.
It's a big darn area, and it's complex.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm right now writing a book because I've been struggling for many years with how to see the Agile world at an enterprise level in a simple enough way to really understand, and a complex enough way to do justice to the reality that's out there. And the book I'm writing, Coaching the Agile Enterprise, just released a substantial portion of it that's the fundamental foundation of it. And that's what I'm doing and most excited about. And I'm very glad that we're finally at least to the point of having a beta version of this track. it speaks to how complex it is that we're not able to just straight release it, because it's we need some more feedback.
Yeah, it needs more application and use to find out where it's useful, where it's difficult, where it's beautiful, where it's ugly. Yeah.
I think that provides a good segue, kind of the timeline. Eleanor, if you want to fast forward to that. So as we've already alluded to, we've got quite a bit of water under the bridge, so to speak, on this one. And that we started over a year and 3-4 months ago with the initial drafting of what we thought was going to be a fairly straightforward definition. Getting into it, I think we realized this is pretty large. We did have an initial review team that you see there on screen that were part of the critical early feedback, and the big takeaway we got from that initial feedback was let's keep thinking about this. And one of the major changes I think happened in that segue was this isn't really a role. This is not something somebody does as a job description, and that's something I think is a key point here to take away. Is this is really more about a set of skills and competencies, experiences that you can develop over the course of years, and that it's really a learning path than it is a definition of a job. And then we went into the second drafting, going from a noun to a verb, right? What is the difference between being the Enterprise Agile coach to doing Enterprise Agile coaching? And so the second drafting kind of really took on a new language, a new viewpoint. A lot of the structure may have stayed somewhat the same, although we tweaked that as well. And now we're ready for the published draft, which is where we're at now. So yeah, we're seeking your inputs into the process. As Lisa said, we want to know where it looks good, where it doesn't look so good, and we're definitely open to radical, shifts if we feel like we're off track here. As you notice, most of the people on this review team have a little bit bias towards transformational type of organizational coaching. As you'll see here in a little bit, we'll talk a little bit about some of those biases and some of the specialties available through this, beyond this track.
Yep.
Well,
I just want to give a shout out to our initial round of reviewers, and you see their names here, because I don't think I really expected the depth and level of introspection that came back from them, and it really did shift this track completely. It wasn't just like we took their advice and took it under consideration. It was like what they said to us had us change it completely, and I think much more for the better. And what Michael was saying earlier is this is a hard world because it's super complex. I mean, the enterprises we're working in are complex, and any attempts to kind of dumb it down or simplify it in a one-page diagram are just giving us a slice of what's happening. And so, so you can expect this track to be really kind of broad and meaty. It's just how it really is.
Well, there's a lot of meat on the bone, and you mentioned, Pete, transformation not long ago, but you make a distinction in the introduction between transformation and transition, and I thought that was an important thing that you pulled out and used as a framing device.
Yeah, certainly, in the application itself, in the definition, learning objectives themselves, we primarily focus on the word transition and recognize that a deeper state of this, beyond, specialty in this gets into more of that transformational type of constructs. And we'll get into that in just a second here. So a couple more things in terms of kind of overview, and then we'll kind of start to dive into Q&A. If you want to advance to the next slide.
Certainly.
We have a couple more slides I'd like to share with you. Just as far as understanding what IC Agile does and what our goal was here is that what we were doing is creating learning objectives. So we're not creating a class. We're not creating necessarily a job description. We're just saying, what would it take for somebody to learn, to be, have the skills and competencies to be, to do Enterprise Agile coaching. And so We're leading towards accredited courses, so we're looking for course developers and others to be looking at this in draft form to say, hey, what would it take to develop classes towards this? And it's really, as I think Eleanor mentioned earlier, it's a growth curve for those going from that professional to expert to master. I think all of us on the panel would agree that we look at this and it looks daunting even to us. You know, here we created it and we're like, could we teach a class on this? And all of us, I think, kind of shook our heads a little bit and saying, it's pretty audacious. And to think you could teach a class across all these skill sets is pretty, would be quite challenging. And we expect that, you know, an education provider is probably going to require multiple types of trainers, different focuses to really be able to accomplish this course around this track effectively. And that's kind of the feedback we'll be looking for is, you know, what do you think it's going to take? What are the type of people that could teach this, et cetera? I'm going to jump to the next slide. So just a couple of things with regard to kind of an overview of the program itself. Our goal here was to create what we call the foundational knowledge. Right? So we recognize that there is a ton of things to be aware of. There's a ton of things to know. There's a ton of things to actually practice and be good at. We don't expect coming out of the course material that somebody's going to be an expert in enterprise agile coaching. What we would expect, though, is them to have the foundational knowledge to be able to apply to enterprise agile coaching. Now, the difference is the difference of experience. And so the track is meant to provide the education. That's going to be complemented with experience, and then the two combined would lead towards the certification. This track, again, the learning objectives are about the knowledge. And if you've downloaded the track, the PDF, it has 5 major topic areas to it. Those are listed there on the slide. And again, just wanted to recognize that the breadth of this is quite large. You know, we go everything from, you know, organizational elements, leadership elements, cultural elements, change elements. And it's not meant to be for a role. It's not meant to be, okay, this is a change coach, this is an agile coach. It's meant to be, okay, here's a set of skills and competencies that coaches should be aware of working at an enterprise level.
Yeah, I think one of the patterns to note that we started to work within each of these topic areas within the track was really defining learning objectives that were at an understanding level with an application followed, you know, following that. So just kind of underscoring what Pete was saying, we wouldn't expect anybody to come out of learning or a course in here and be an expert professional coach or an expert OD person. It's much more at the foundational level understanding of it, understanding a pretty broad range of things, and then applying something within the class framework and then real application time outside of a classroom. And I like, Michael, I think you've a number of times described this as a kind of a roadmap to learning. I don't know if there's anything more you want to say about that, but that analogy has worked well for us.
Nope. Not right now.
Just have one more slide that we have as far as the presentation portion of this, and then open it up to some questions and conversation, I guess, more so around this. So again, our purpose here is to provide, and it seems funny, right, that we're saying, okay, this is a general understanding and awareness of the overall field of enterprise agile coaching. What we're fully expecting is that coaches are going to have a specialty, that there are going to be coaches focused in a particular dimension that are going to take this further, and that should take this further. And I think this is, again, where I believe we've got some bias on this panel, and the authors of this, is that most of us would consider ourselves more on the transformational agility specialty. And so what you might see in this definition we're fully aware of is a transformational bias. Okay, now the question becomes, is it too biased towards transformational? Did we put too much of that in there and too little technical or business? That might be one question that we come out of here with. What we try to do is provide at least some of each from an introduction, awareness, and understanding perspective, and to try to evaluate what we thought was at least a base necessity to be aware of in engaging with organizations. And so we fully intend or expect in the future that there may be specialized tracks in business agility, specialized tracks in technical agility, and specialized tracks in transformational agility that take this even further. We're not trying, this track is not trying to address those at this point. We're just recognizing that they're likely there. And we've tried to create a base, even though that base is quite broad.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see.
Sounds like, if you'll forgive the metaphor, that you've made the stew and now we're inviting people to help adjust the seasonings.
Wow, that is a metaphor.
Yeah, like the base is here. It's a really yummy stew by itself. But, you know, if you like a lot of carrots, you're going to have to add some of your own. Because we don't do, like, you know, the four of us aren't really deep in technical agility, for example. So if that's represented by carrots, you're going to need a little more carrots.
That said, you know, from my point of view, at least, you need to know this stuff if you're going to be seriously working at an enterprise level, because all the organizational things that don't seem relevant on a certain level to a technical person necessarily are relevant. They do show up. They do bite you, and you need to know this stuff. And notwithstanding that, we've certainly left out some level of business and technical agility, particularly. But I think we've taken the point of view that you really need to know about leadership. You really need to know about culture. Even if that's not your prime area, that you need to understand what the impact is there when you do work in another area.
Yes. Yeah. I'll also, you know, make the point that we've done our best not to go too deep into the transformational agility part. In fact, we've taken learning objectives out of this that we thought were going too far in that area. And what we really wanted to create here, as Pete said, was a broad and strong foundation for anyone who's doing Agile coaching, no matter what their specialty is going to be, no matter what their inclination is.
So,
all right, I think it's time to hear from others.
I think so too. So what we want to do at this point is invite you to say your name and just say what question or thought you have right now. What we're going to do is canvass all of those before we dive into any one of them. And even if you don't have a question at this point, we still want you to, you know, just say your name and say, hi, I'm listening, I'm happy, or whatever is true for you. So who's going first?
Cool. So this is Agile Bill. Thanks for all the work you put into that. How can we help? I mean, is there something you'd like us to review or try out?
Great. Thanks for the question.
Thanks.
well, on the IC Agile website. Excuse me.
Well, hold on, Eleanor. One of the things we're trying to do is solicit kind of as many questions and whatnot, and then put those in a list here before we address them.
In fact, I need a pen.
Absolutely. Thanks for the reminder.
Hi, this is Becky Drailing. I have a sort of a comment and scenario around what my organization is looking at and what we're doing right now. We're in the process of trying to find an enterprise Agile coach, and it's been really challenging. We've talked to probably 15 people, and so I love that this track is here, because part of what I've seen is some people just think enterprise coaching is, oh, you just scale using SAFe. And so, like I said, it's not really a question, it's more of an observation and where the challenges we're having are coming from.
Okay, super.
I love that you're representing that point of view, Becky. Thanks.
Hi, this is Cindy Bloomer. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, Cindy, we can hear you.
Hey, hi all. I know some of you I don't. I have two basic questions, my questions are around two categories actually. The first one is I want to start using this, promoting it. being you said earlier, being a practitioner and hearing and practicing it and feeding back information that way. So I'm curious as to how you see that happening. And then the second one is around and I haven't read the entire document yet, so the answer might be in there. But the second one would be around the gaining the skills or getting credit for the skills for an accreditation, if you will. So how that works. For example, if you have if someone has a degree in OD, or they have a degree, or they are a professional coach, how does credit get given for those, if at all?
Great. Cool. Thanks. More? Who else is out there?
Hi, Etienne. I just want to learn more about enterprise Agile, so I'm here to take notes.
Great.
Was that
Great.
Jamal?
That was Etienne?
Yep.
Glad you gave us your voice, Etienne. Glad you're here.
Okay.
Great.
Hi, this is Ram, and I know a lot of you folks, and probably because I haven't met Marsha in person. Other than that, I have met Pete, Michael, and Lisa in person. I have a question, and I also have a suggestion. My first question is that in the initial drafts, I saw that we were talking about the Shuhari model, where we had the Shu level and the Ha level as the expert level and the Re level as the master level. And is there any specific reason that this got torn off to a separate track? And is this the same model which will also be followed for the other tracks as well? That's my question. The other suggestion I have is that I'm seeing a lot of Agile accounting stuff both in the SAFe world as well as in the regular world. I'm not too sure if that is included within the learning objectives of this particular track, or if it's addressed in a different track.
Okay, great.
Good question. Yeah.
Who else is out there?
Well, I think we could probably
That
get
might be
going.
That might be it. Great. Well, guys, you have a thought about how to go through these in a way that not only answers the question, but maybe gives a little more context and background?
Probably just in order, I think, is probably okay.
Okay.
Eleanor, you were starting to talk about how they can help. So Bill's question. Do you want to continue with that?
Yeah, that's my question too. Yeah, sure.
Great. That would be a good way to go into this listening portion, is basically to become familiar with this material, spend time. The language is so rich, it might be best ingested little bits at a time. That's how I've been going through it at Agile Coaching Thought for the Day from these learning objectives. And as you absorb them and think about their application in your work, you can provide feedback through the IC Agile website, and the track designers will be looking at all of that and finalizing the track. So it's a very plastic time in the life of this track that you can step in, and we'll create a new circle for discussion. And this doesn't have to be the moment that we all get together and talk about this. This will probably be one of several as this track evolves.
We really look at this as kind of more the kickoff to getting feedback, and so we will certainly, if you want input into what this thing looks like, you've got a chance. Being on the other side of this, I was kind of on the review side of the Agile coaching facilitation track, and I know the team there took quite a bit of my feedback and was able to incorporate some of that into what they did at that level.
Yeah.
We're just as moldable and moldable, I think, here. So, questions about Agile accounting, that's a really good question we could talk a little bit about today, but also, something we should be maybe looking at as part of, this track can change between now and kind of full release with that regard. But it's only going to happen if we get, these emails from you, and a recommendation on giving feedback it would be helpful not just to say, hey, this is missing, or hey, this is wrong. If you could tell us, draft a learning objective. You're seeing kind of the structure of this thing. Put a theme and a learning objective together for us, and give us some ideas on what you're thinking. What would you recommend for these learning objectives? That would be probably the most beneficial.
Yep.
Yeah, and what's going to help us is having feedback from how it impacts you in trying to use it. So, for example, if you're using it for self-learning, to have feedback from you that says, try to use this for self-learning, and I realize that it's gotten me really deep in this area, and then it totally ignored this other area, and I came across this other area realizing it was important for me. That's really much more useful to us than you saying, well, I happen to know about this other area, and I think it's important for everyone in the world to know about it. So let me give you that's the example from the self-learning. From using it to try to create a course. So this track is not structured in a way that leads someone, takes them by the hand and shows them exactly how to create a course. There are, an infinite number of ways to create courses around these learning objectives that are all valid, that would all meet the learning objectives. You have to be totally different models you'd use, totally different ways of teaching it. And so with that great flexibility, there's also the chance that we don't track that this makes it very difficult. And we want to know what's difficult about using this as you're trying to create a course. So what I'm trying to point you toward is feedback about how you're trying to apply this and what you're learning that's difficult about it or that might be missing versus you coming from the position of sitting in the leather chair and saying, well, I think Agile coaching XYZ. Believe me, we've had enough of that I think. We've all been doing that I think for the last year along with all of the reviewers of this, and now we need wheels on the ground. Yeah.
And it's very exciting to be part of a conversation that results in seeing your input into a document changing and really coming to life so that it can have legs.
Yeah, and it's not like we're defining and articulating something that everyone already knows. This is emerging, right? So it's not exactly clear.
Hey, Jamal, I think your speakers are catching back in the mic. Could you go on mute?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay,
Thanks, Jamal.
thank you. Marsha or Michael, do you guys want to add anything?
Just call out the other persona that I heard, which is somebody trying to hire one, and feedback from that point of view that might be useful is, does this help me know what I would be hiring, or does it give me the kind of substance that I can use as a yardstick or something like that to get a sense of, oh yeah, that makes sense to me, or I need this more than that, or whatever. So that would be another persona of feedback for us.
Yeah, and starting to bridge over to that question about, finding a coach that's, a good enterprise Agile coach. I think one of the things we recognize, and I think one of the things we're seeing through this is a new field. I mean, this is something that there isn't a whole lot of expertise out there, and that it's in a sense today a bit of a crapshoot and a bit of a free-for-all right now in finding what are good people. And part of the purpose of this definition, as well as what we've done with the Certified Scrum Coaching program, was to bring some form of accreditation, some form of definition around it, so that we could actually have a conversation to say, hey, what is your awareness of these skills and competencies? But to Michael's point, I think it would be very helpful to learn from a hiring perspective. If you've created something that can use this in your interview process or your resume checkoff process, that'd be very interesting to understand and see.
Yeah.
Well, since we're in the middle of that process, I will absolutely be using that for doing just like what you said. So I will give you guys feedback as we're working through our stacks and staff resumes.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. Sure. And I feel your pain, Becky. The persona you represent is one of the main reasons why I thought this track was really important to create.
Right.
because it's so hard to know what am I looking for and how do I assess people who are coming through the door wanting this.
Yep.
So Cindy's questions were two of them.
You're on mute, Eleanor.
Oh, Eleanor's talking?
She was trying to talk.
Probably just as well that you couldn't hear me. As questions come in through the chat, would you like to batch them and to have me read them all together, or shall I read the one that just came in to add to your list?
Let's go through the ones we have right now, and then let's.
Very well. Then come back to me, and I'll read the ones that came in through the chat. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah. So Cindy, I hope you've gotten a little bit of your question answered about how you can feedback information as you use this as a practitioner and you promote it. Anything else you want there?
So I think we have a key question here. She had a really good question, right? How does somebody, let's say somebody's coming in with an OD background, somebody's coming in with professional coaching background.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is learning competencies here. If somebody comes in with leadership training, culture training,
yeah.
How does IC Agile address the accreditation of stuff they've already learned? And I guess that would be more an IC Agile question than an author question.
I know what I tell students who ask me, but if we have Eleanor, and Eleanor actually has the real world word, I'd rather hear it from you. But if you don't know, I'll tell you what I tell people.
Well, I would love to hear what you tell people.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Eleanor.
You're on mute.
Here we go.
Still.
Excuse me.
There you go.
Yeah, it's saying anyway, I would love to hear what you tell people, because that's basically what I've been doing, is having depth interviews with the MTOs, finding out how they're describing the process, and all of that is going together into a frequently asked questions document that will be available very shortly on the IC Agile website. But basically, the consistency is an important part of the integrity of the learning pathway, and so it might be problematic in some ways for people who've been in the field for years to go back and take a course called Fundamentals, but the pathway really does need to be consistent in order to have integrity. So we're offering the certifications in the format as outlined, that the professional level really signals your intent to go for the expert level, and then the expert level is where you really get to show what you know and demonstrate.
So that may be something new. I don't know. But I would imagine if someone has a master's in organization development, then they probably actually have gone maybe even a little bit further than what these learning objectives state.
In certain dimensions.
Is to talk about IC Agile, because there's, IC Agile's university model makes me think that there must be a comp out process for some things. But Eleanor, you might know that that's not true. I don't know.
Well, the basic way to ensure the consistency of the entire process is for people to signal their intent to go for the expert level by getting that professional level certification in some form or fashion. And as you've stated, there are many ways to do that, many ways that looks like. So one of the things IC Agile is doing now and focusing on, and will be in 2014, is learning credits access through conferences and webinars. So member training organization courses are not the only place to meet the learning objectives, and there's kind of this gamification of recording your learning and all of the knowledge that gets shared at conferences and webinars. So that's another way to show your learning on the transcript.
Okay.
All right. In order for us to kind of get through these questions, I want to make sure we address
people are
Ron's
saying
question.
they have urgent questions as well happening in the chat box. So
yeah. So let's go over Ram's question, then let's get to those questions in the chat box here. But
Good.
Ram, you had a question about the initial draft of the Shuhari, as well as not seeing accounting in here. You're right. From the business perspective, measuring agility, measuring effectiveness, etc. I do believe that the current draft is pretty lightweight in that regards. That we're probably seeing some growth in that business agility area that we should probably be looking at considering. And so my recommendation would be, if you think there's a definition there, a couple learning objectives there that you would see, recommend them to us, and we'd certainly be willing to take a look at those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about the Shuhari thing, though.
Ron, was your question there, what was the reasoning for making Enterprise Agile Coaching a separate track from coaching and facilitation? Was that your question?
Yeah, my understanding was that the initial model was built on Shuhari, where ICP would be the SHU level certification, and the HA level or expert level certification will be the expert, IC Agile expert at a specific track, and then the master level certification will be something beyond that. And I was thinking that maybe that changed.
That's probably still a valid model. I have not heard that metaphor used for it, but it makes sense. I wanted to address maybe for other people who are having this question, or maybe just I think it's important for you guys to know that we feel really strongly that not everyone in the world needs to become an Enterprise Agile coach, which is one of the reasons why this is its own track. Yes, it requires the prerequisites of the coaching and facilitation track if you want to move forward in those certifications. It absolutely does. We want to honor the fact that someone could be a really strong Agile facilitator and coach at the multi-team program level, and that's a valid endpoint for certification, for getting an expert at that level.
And that you could become more and more, you could become a master, not necessarily in IC Agile terms, but you could become a master team coach that doesn't, graduate, so to speak, to be an enterprise coach. That's not what many people will do.
Yeah. The industry up to this point kind of pointed everyone there because there's a big jump between certified Scrum practitioner and certified Scrum coach, which is an enterprise coach level designation at the Scrum Alliance, and what's missing there that this game has is that Agile coach level. That shoot, if we had more people really, really functional at that level and really strong at the individual team level, someone who's an Agile team facilitator, we'd have a lot less need for a bunch of enterprise Agile coaches. Maybe. I think there's a good chance of that. At any rate, I think we'd see Agile as a lot more healthy. Yeah. I think that's important. All right, cool.
Why don't we get Jamal, since Jamal didn't have a chance to ask the question earlier. Jamal, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Hi, everybody. Maybe I'm talking from some other part of the world. It's almost 10 p.m. today. It's great to see you all, guys. And in fact, I have been reading a lot about Agile coaching since almost 5 to 6 years. However, my question is that, this is something related to the first day when Agile Manifesto had come to this world. At that point of time, there was no a role named Agile coach. Yeah. So how do you think that this role has been evolving? What is the difference between seeing the role of coaching through Agile at this point of time, in compare with the last 10 years? I'm just curious to know what's the thing that has been changing through this role specifically.
One of the things I'll add, and I think Michael's probably got something to say on this too, but I've spent some time at the organizational development community, the OD community, and I did a presentation probably 5-6 years ago to my local OD group here in Colorado, and they're basically the feedback at that point was, wow, that's us, that's who we are, right? And I think one of the things we're seeing is kind of a change in the change agents, right? And the fact that Agile is all about continuous change. There's never an end point. Well, OD was about change management and how does an organization be healthy through change. And so I think to some degree we've seen a bit of a switch in kind of ownership of this passing of the guard or of who's really helping the organizations through the change process. And so to me, that's one of the kind of trends we've seen in the industry. Not that OD's gone away, but that a lot of OD has been expected by leadership now, and you don't see a lot of OD people in organizations today as hired as much as you used to probably 10, 20 years ago.
And I think that the point of view of the signers of the Agile Manifesto was very software-centric and very centric in alleviating the pain from software teams. And Agile is a much bigger concept than that and goes far beyond those bounds. And even in that smaller view, there was always a Scrum Master who was not just running stuff, but paying attention to helping the team achieve their greatest performance. And as those ideas move further and further out from just one team or a cluster of teams to a whole bunch of teams to a whole department to a whole organization to multiple organizations within an enterprise, I think the need for coaching becomes more important because we're still not very good at the human stuff. And I think coaches help in that realm, just like in the past maybe OD folks did, although their reach didn't get to be as wide, I think, as a lot of Agile coaches' reach gets to be now.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you.
Ahmed has arrived.
I'm sorry.
So we had a question, I know Bill had a question around ICE, AC, Agile Enterprise Coaching, CSC, should I get all three, some of the above, different, etc. I'm not sure what ICE AC is. Is that PMI's AC?
No, that's the IC Agile Expert in Agile Coaching. That's the expert level of the Facilitation Coaching track, Pete.
Okay. So tell you this at this point. So CSC in my mind the way we've defined CSC is an equivalency, maybe not quite as rigorous at this point as IC Agile's definition of enterprise Agile coaching. But CSC is defined as an enterprise coaching definition. And actually, one of the problems we've had in the CSC is the fact that we don't have a certificate for a teams level coach. We're in the Scrum Alliance, we're playing with different alternatives to create that. So I agree the fact that these are separate tracks. I think you can have a master teams coach versus an enterprise coach. I think those are different skills and different people can be masters at each one of those. So I think it really depends on which one you achieve is what are you really trying to accomplish in an organization. If you're really looking more organizationally and working across some of those other organizational initiatives, I think the enterprise coaching or the CSC is probably more the program for what you're looking for. If you're looking at getting your hands a lot more dirty in more agile processes, practices, principles of applying things, I think you would tend to apply yourself more at that teams level coach and be a master teams coach would be my kind of advice in that.
Cool. Thanks, P. I appreciate that. Helps. Yeah, because it's like we've got several Agile coaches, but 2,000 people. And it's a totally different thing is how do you talk to the VPs and directors and recalcitrant people and ed people and IT people and accounting for capitalization people. And it's not even just like the program level team of teams with 100 people. You got one big fiefdom in the enterprise you got to move, right? So I want to learn how to do that better because that's hard. It's interesting, but it's hard. Thanks.
Yeah, if you want, so if you want to take that step, then really what you're looking at is more of that enterprise level competency because you're dealing with leaders, you're dealing with different business styles of agility, things like that.
And one of the things that I think is not completely apparent in the learning objectives for the enterprise coach level is that there's an inherent assumption that the person who's applying those models and that knowledge is also continuing to grow their skill set in the 4 foundational skill areas: professional coaching, facilitation, teaching, and mentoring. Because those are the ways you help apply what you know and help an organization kind of take in for themselves the models and things that you're bringing to them. And so as you continue to move into those more complex situations like you just listed so well there, Agile Bill, as you move into those more complex situations, you need to bring deeper levels of expertise and practice in those foundational skills as well. And so we keep saying as track developers, well, that's something we need to assess at the expert level for this enterprise Agile coaching gate. And it's very hard for us, and we haven't been able to do it, to articulate, you know, how much or how deep of those do you have to have. But definitely more than you would have at the IC Agile Expert for Agile Coaching gate, for sure.
So like if I were to apply for Enterprise Coach tomorrow, what evidence would I need to bring for the gate? And that's intended to be a powerful question.
Come on, give us a break.
Well, that's the, yeah, so,
well, for one thing, the beta won't be done for about 4 months, so just forget about it, Agile Bill. We appreciate your enthusiasm, Robert.
It might be a good test.
Yeah.
It might be a good test of the process, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's what's happening right
Well,
now.
it's, you know,
at the IC Agile Expert Agile Coach level. It's just the first people have come through that, and we're figuring out what does it take for them to prove competence. And that's a totally new thing, kind of in our world, because our world is very, you know, take a test or write some essay kind of based certification so far. And so I think we're doing a good job figuring out what that means at that level, and what we're learning there can be applied at the enterprise level. But I'm imagining, you know, interviewing some CXOs of people who have said that they've been Agile coaches, enterprise Agile coaches.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
No,
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things to be looking at right now, I think you look at all these learning objectives, one of the things we tried to do is we tried to bring in models, right? So models being, hey, in this space we recognize these 3 or 4 resources, books, people that are thinking intelligently about this topic, you know, go read them. You know, bring that into your repertoire, practice with it. You know, there could be a whole self-learning process to this this domain that I think, you know, before the classes are there, there's a lot you can be learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you don't, obviously you don't have to be certified. I mean, part of why Lisa and I got involved with this path was because it's an open source model so that people can use it how they want to. And we appreciate IC Agile supporting that, and it's for multiple uses. So self-study is a perfectly valid way of using it.
Well, we hit our time box here, so we should probably close out. Eleanor, is there anything you needed to close up with?
Thank you. Yes, just to state that the PDF of these learning objectives for the Enterprise Agile Coaching track are available. The PDF is available on the IC Agile website, and it is licensed under Creative Commons, so it's available for anyone to use and even to mix and transform with appropriate attribution. But we really want feedback so that it can go from the beta state to finalization, and we will be posting the next webinar in a week or so as we move through various tracks. And thank you for being here. You've been wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank you.
hosting, Anna.
Good questions.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you all, and thanks, Eleanor.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye.